Tanya, hey, how are
Oh my
you?
gosh, I'm good. Thank you so much for finding the time. I know how busy you are. You're a superstar. Thank you ever so much for
Oh,
uh,
no worries, my pleasure.
So awesome. Right, now it's all recorded and I'm pretty sure let's go. I have so many questions, but we need to fit in. I know we're limited with the time. So, first of all, I just want to say, of course, the British audience know your name and you know how much you input into music industry is just incredible. But for our millions and millions of Russian viewers, I just want to
Yes,
say a couple of things, you know. So I just
sure.
want to read from your website. It's wow, it's just absolutely incredible. So Matthew, international composer, arranger, conductor. It's just what he can do with that music in so many levels is just unbelievable. And I have here in studio some massive fan of yours just for your
Ah,
arrangements. Can you say hello to Jordan?
hey, Jordan.
Fantastic. Hey, Matt. Here we go.
Oh my gosh, how much did I have to pay you to be a fan?
Ah, so cute, so cute. Now, so you know what? I just will go through a little bit what you've done. So you've been working in London, in Los Angeles with America Got Talent. It was X Factor, Britain's Got Talent. And, you are a massive part of the musical theatre, of course. Is it West End or do you do Broadway? Anything in Broadway? Or is
Yeah,
it
well,
British?
I've actually got my Broadway debut next year. So it's my first time on Broadway in July next year. I'll be conducting, in the Lincoln Center at the David Koch Theatre with the New York City Ballet.
This is incredible. Absolutely.
Yeah,
We're so privileged just to talk to you. And this is why I just have a couple of questions. So, you know
sure.
what? I and you, of course, did a fantastic arrangement for Paddington 2. I loved
Yes.
it. It was
Yeah.
amazing. Ah, it's
Yeah.
just was so lush. Now, first thing I wanted to ask you, right? As you are so busy, and I know it probably a secret what you're doing now for London, in London, isn't it? So you're preparing something for for
Well,
the
for
musical theatre,
Birmingham,
isn't it?
for Birmingham.
Oh, for Birmingham, okay.
Yeah.
So that's does it mean that we are recovering?
It means that we're heading in the right direction. I think.
So what is do you think that it's a good chance of a renaissance in the musical theatre?
I think there's going to be a boom. I think there's going to be a huge boom, like there has been in the housing market. I think there's going to be such a desire, and people have been through. Art, brilliant art, is often made off the back of traumatic experiences. So, for example, the poetry that came off the First World War. These huge sort of collisions in our world, I think often lead us to take steps into the next level of art and the next level of our art form. So I think it's a really, whilst it's been such an incredibly challenging time, I think it's also going to be a launch pad to some brilliant things in the industry.
That is so exciting. I'm so happy to hear that. Fingers
Fingers
crossed,
crossed.
absolutely. We are preparing some really good artists for that, isn't it?
Yeah,
Just
yeah,
about to take off their career and such an incredible, it's like a renaissance of the music
totally,
industry, isn't it? This is super,
totally.
super exciting. Do you think it's the same with the record label? Because that's under the question, isn't it? I,
Mm.
I don't think we don't know anymore what the record labels would want or would need from the singers and from your musicians. What's your opinion? What is it? What's going to be happening?
Well, do you know what? I think the record industry has really sort of has driven ahead in the way that it consumes music and the way that it reaches its audience. And sort of the musical theatre audience and the theatre stuff is slightly behind on that, I think. But I think that's come into the musical theatre world as well now, with musicals being sold on TikTok, being introduced on TikTok, being introduced on social media. And I think that some of these young artists who have such sort of originality. I think that's the key for young artists these days, is their connection and their originality and their connection with the audience. I think gone are the days maybe sort of 20 years ago, where you just have like this sort of conveyor belt of everyone trying to sound the same or look the same or feel the same. You know, I remember days of auditioning 15 years ago where you'd have like 100 dancers would come in the room and you'd see them all dance and they'd go, and we were looking for them to be of a certain type and precise. And now when we're auditioning people, we're looking for individuality. We're looking for people's characteristics and, you know, rather than this sort of typical body shape, or it's about personality, character, who you are as a person coming out in whatever artistic form that is, be it in the record label or in the world of theatre. I think it's the same.
That's super. It's a little bit delay, so I've just been listening and seeing how you the finishing phrase. That's what I actually quite interested about. As I call myself more or less expert on the voices, you know, I just wonder what happened to the styles. Like for example, musical theatre. Are there things allowed more in musical theatre? You know, like it was quite standard approach, a very pure singing in musical theatre. Do we add now anything we want? Can it be husky sound, or can it be breathy kind of lower register, you know, instead of just pure kind of singing approach, you know? What do you think? Is it allowed, or do we stick to traditional musical theatre voices?
Yeah, I think it really depends on which show you're talking about. So I think what's happened in musical theatre is in musicals, people have to be able to sing 8 shows a week. They have to be able to rehearse in the daytime. It can be a really heavy vocal week where you're doing 50 hours of singing. Some of the tenor lines, soprano lines can be really, really high. So I think in the past, there's been this real sense of needing a really fantastic technique just to be able to physically cope with that. But what that's done, I think, is it has created this sort of sound in musical theatre of this very tilted larynx, sort of very slightly nasal sound, which has been really appropriate for quite a while. But I definitely think originality is now the key for the new musicals again. So what there are definitely those shows. So I worked on a show called Legally Blonde, and we were looking for that pop-tastic musical theatre sound, 100%. And obviously, if you're working on Les Mis, they are still very much looking for that legit pop crossover sound. But for shows we're working, you know, for new shows we're working on now, often you know, I'm working on a show at the moment which is based on music from the 60s. And you think about those vocalists from the 60s, John Lennon, Aretha Franklin, Tina Turner. I mean, some of the best vocalists we've ever had. And our very own Tom Jones from Wales. These are some of the greatest vocalists of all time. And they all had individuality in abundance. And I think that's so key.
Brilliant. It's the same as the Six, isn't it? The musical. Obviously, it sounds like a pop song, isn't it? A
Yeah.
pop music, pop approach. So definitely things change, isn't it? So we are allowed more of the personality, isn't it, in musical theatre now. That's awesome. It's actually quite good to know. So, you know, like it was, like you just mentioned, those amazing singers, and they all had phenomenal big voices, isn't it? And with the strong techniques. Do we still need it? Or we can just focus on the tone? Because of course now Billie Eilish kind of era of Billie Eilish, isn't it? It's all about tone.
Mm.
Do we need to still build up the strength of the voice, or we just need to purely focus on the tone?
Yeah, that's an interesting question. I think that does vary actually in musical theatre and in pop. I think you can be a successful pop artist without having a powerful voice. But I think to sing on stage, I think that sense of power is still required, or, you know, 9 times out of 10.
Okay.
But I mean, I'm a big Billie Eilish fan, and I think when you're that close on a microphone and you have speakers or headphones in and you're hearing this up close vocal, da da da, 'cause I like it like that, like it like that.
Yeah.
It's like you feel like she's like whispering right by your ear, and
Yeah.
she's right with you, and it's a phenomenal it's a phenomenal sound. But I don't think that translates quite as well to the stage.
I think maybe it's also connected somehow with the quality of the equipment is so much better now, isn't it? You can catch every breath, and you actually, I can hear on the recordings that you don't have to even remove all those imperfections. They are actually are much encouraged, isn't it? I
Yes,
love it.
definitely. Yeah, they're part of the character and part of the flavor of the record. Like, some of those older records where the musicians would make mistakes, that's part of it. And I think it's the same in these current records now. We definitely went through a period in the 90s and in the millennium where everything sounded really perfect. And I think we're going back now with the I guess Amy Winehouse, and that she really started this trend of it just feeling cool and yeah, having that real tone and character and mistakes being part of the joy and the color of it all.
Yeah, it's true. And I remember one of the interviews of Christina Aguilera when she was recording her Beautiful, and she really wanted it perfect. And at some point, her musical engineer or director, he said, "Listen, Beautiful is not really about perfect. What is perfect? Perfect pretty much is dead, if you want. It's
Yeah,
actually imperfections are so beautiful, like we see it in nature all the
totally.
time, isn't it? Incredible." I wanted to ask, I know we're running out of time. I just wanted to ask another one big question that is so interesting, because so many of my singers are trying to write their own original material. And I do hear that record labels so much prefer for them to have their original material because they
Yeah,
not prepare now to invest for yet another bunch of money, into buying the songs for artists, isn't it? So it's quite a
yeah.
good thing to be able to write your own material. So what is your, because you're a phenomenal creator, you create all the time, almost like on a daily basis, isn't it? What is it that you do you have any ritual? Do you need to be do you have a shot of vodka? No, I'm just kidding. Or what is it that puts you in that creative condition?
Uh, yeah. Well, this is a very uninspiring answer, I think, unfortunately, because, you know, you kind of have this glorified idea of it. But for me, it's just like wake up, madness in the house, get the kids to school, do the packed lunches, come home, try and make some beds with my wife. We work together from home, and then sort of get down at the piano by sort of just shortly after 9 o'clock. So yeah, I tend to feel pretty uninspired and run ragged, and I sit at the piano and just know that I've got 8 hours to turn it out. So I just sort of force myself, I've got to do this. But no, I think in seriousness, for me, it's about if an idea isn't coming, then it's about surrounding yourself like in the source material. So I don't really write too much pop stuff. I mainly write theatre. And if a theatre song isn't coming to me, then I'll go back to the source material. So by that I mean, I'm potentially writing a new show at the moment, a family musical, which is really exciting. I'll tell you the name of it now. It's called Rocking Red Riding Hood. So it's based on Little Red Riding Hood, but she's going to be like a rock star. So yeah, where there's moments where we're writing songs for it, I think for me it's just about thinking, what does that character want? Where is she heading? Who's in the scene with her? What's she trying to get across? And I'll just kind of keep going back to those core elements. I think with a pop song, it's slightly different to that. With a pop song, you're really tapping into those personal issues and personal feelings. So I think with pop, it's often about digging deep and trying to be really, some of the best records are the records where the artist lays himself bare. Adele is a perfect example of that. And that's where they can have the most meaning, I think.
This is just a fantastic advice for them. Dig deep, isn't it? Especially for the pop industry. That's awesome. Thank you so much, Matt. I hope that we will make our plans kind of come true when you have a little bit time, and we will do these joint workshops that we were talking about, and we will combine vapor. That is vapor, isn't it? It's a
Vapor,
vapor.
yeah, that's right, yeah.
We will combine all the skills that vapor the drama school is a stage school, isn't it?
Exactly, yeah, 100%.
We will combine all the skills that stage school can provide, plus my skills on the working with the voices, and I think it will be great results, you know. And I think lots of children will be super mega excited to attend that, and I really look forward to that. Thank you ever so much for your time. I know you're super mega busy, and it's so kind of you to actually find that time for me. Thank you ever so much.
Oh, no worries. Thanks very much for having me. And just a note to all your viewers, you know, I've worked with some of the best vocal coaches in the country. I've been very lucky. And Tanya is just 100% up there. So, you know, let's all link together, because we kind of live close to each other, me and Tanya. So yeah, we're gonna hook up, and we're gonna, you know, make some amazing stuff go on down in this part, in, you know, and all over the internet too, but in particular around South Wales. So all right, guys, signing off.
Thank you so much. Bye.